What if everything you've ever touched, seen, or trusted to be real isn't actually what it seems? Not because it's fake, but because it's not being held together the way we think it is. For centuries, we believed matter was the anchor of reality. Atoms, forces, and the invisible scaffolding of space-time. A cosmic architecture we assumed was fixed and final. But what if it isn't structure that holds the universe together, but something far stranger, something woven from information itself? Right now, in the most advanced quantum labs on Earth, physicists are realizing that matter doesn't even exist as a continuous thing. The solid table in front of you? 99.999% empty space. What's left isn't substance, it's relationships, patterns of probability, quantum entanglements flickering in and out of coherence. Some researchers are beginning to whisper what sounds like heresy, that what truly holds the universe together is correlation, that everything, from your heartbeat to the orbit of galaxies, might be bound not by physical glue, but by mathematical connectivity. If this is true, then the world isn't built from particles at all. It's built from questions and answers, measurements, choices, observations. Reality might not be an object, but a conversation. And that raises a terrifyingly beautiful possibility. If reality is being held together by information, then who or what is maintaining the code? Let's start with what's supposed to hold everything together. The four fundamental forces: gravity, electromagnetism, and the strong and weak nuclear forces. They explain attraction, cohesion, decay. It's a clean model, elegant enough to describe everything from galaxies to quarks. But underneath, something doesn't add up. When physicists try to unify these forces, especially gravity with quantum mechanics, the math collapses. The very equations that should describe how the universe holds itself together start to tear themselves apart. Why? Because at the smallest scale, the universe doesn't behave like a structure at all. It behaves like a code. In quantum mechanics, particles aren't tiny marbles. They're probability clouds, waves of potential that only become real when observed. That act of observation doesn't just reveal information, it creates it. Until you look, the electron's position isn't defined. When you do, you force nature to choose. That choice is information, a bit of cosmic data, and it's what collapses the infinite into the actual. Now imagine every particle in the universe doing this, updating, correlating, entangling. What you get isn't a world made of matter, but a vast dynamic network of relationships. Entanglement is the purest form of this connection. When two particles interact and then separate, their quantum states remain linked no matter the distance. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance, but it's more than spooky. It's structure. The entanglement itself is the bond. Some physicists, like John Wheeler, took this to the next level. He suggested a radical phrase, it from bit. The idea that every physical thing, it, arises from information, bit. Binary yes, no answers to fundamental questions about the universe. Reality, then, is not built from substance, but from logic. The universe might be running on a self-generating program, each observation updating the cosmic code. If that's true, what we call space might just be the geometry of entanglement, the way quantum information arranges itself. Time, too, might not be a flow, but a sequence of informational updates. What binds atoms could be the same thing that binds memories, thoughts, or even consciousness: correlation. And that's where it gets unsettling. Because if correlation is the real glue of existence, then the boundaries between things and between you and the world might be illusions of scale. What if separation is just a convenient lie told by perception? But if everything is bound by invisible information, then what happens when that information changes? What if the reason reality feels stable is because we're stabilizing it? Think about it. You open your eyes and the world snaps into focus. Colors, shapes, sound, texture. But before you looked, before your mind processed it, where was it? Not just out there, floating fully formed, but suspended in a sea of probabilities, waiting to be locked in. Quantum physics tells us this isn't poetry. It's literally how the universe behaves. In the famous double-slit experiment, light acts like a wave until you observe it. Then, instantly, it behaves like a particle. Your observation changes its state. That means the observer isn't outside the system, they're part of it. Consciousness, in some deep way, participates in the unfolding of the physical world. But here's the part most people miss. When we say observation, it doesn't have to mean a person looking through a microscope. It can mean any interaction that extracts information. The universe measures itself constantly, particles colliding, photons scattering, atoms exchanging energy. Each event adds a line of code to the universal program, telling it what it now is. Still, there's something unique about the human layer of observation. Unlike random quantum interactions, we perceive meaning. We don't just record reality, we interpret it. We label, categorize, remember. Some physicists and philosophers believe that this interpretative capacity might amplify the coherence of the world we live in. That consciousness could be the mechanism that turns quantum potential into consistent narrative. Imagine walking into a dark room. You flip on a flashlight and the walls appear. But maybe your consciousness isn't just holding the light. Maybe it is the light. Perhaps the physical world isn't fixed until we continuously illuminate it through attention and awareness. Without it, maybe reality doesn't dissolve, but becomes something else entirely. Undefined, uncollapsed, waiting. If that sounds mystical, consider this. In quantum computing, information stored in qubits exists in superposition until it's measured. Only then does the output become real, a defined, classical answer. Our brains might be doing something similar. We live inside a continuous collapse of quantum probabilities into sensory and emotional experience. So maybe the universe isn't something we're inside of. Maybe it's something that forms through us. If this idea that reality is being held together by information and correlation sounds like speculation, let's climb the evidence ladder. Each rung brings us closer to the edge of what physics is starting to admit, and what philosophy has whispered for centuries. Step 1. The quantum entanglement proof. In 2022, the Nobel Prize in Physics went to Alan Aspect, John Clauser, and Anton Zeilinger for proving something once considered impossible. Quantum entanglement is real. Their experiments closed decades of loopholes and showed that when two particles are entangled, measuring one instantly determines the state of the other, even across kilometers. This violates classical physics. It suggests there are no hidden variables inside particles, that their link exists outside space-time itself. In other words, information, not distance, binds the universe. Step 2. The ER-EPR hypothesis. Physicists Juan Maldacena and Leonard Susskind proposed something extraordinary, that entanglement and wormholes might be two sides of the same coin. ER-EPR suggests every pair of entangled particles could be connected through a microscopic bridge in space-time. Not a sci-fi tunnel, but a deep informational connection that creates geometry. If that's true, then space itself emerges from entanglement. Reality's fabric is literally woven from relationships, not things. Step 3. The quantum information view of reality. Physicists like Seth Lloyd and Vlatko Vedral propose that the universe is a quantum computer, processing information at every interaction, every particle collision, every photon exchange, a calculation. In this view, energy and matter aren't primary, they're secondary, expressions of information being processed. What we call laws of physics might be just rules of an ancient algorithm running in the background of existence. Step 4. The observer and reality collapse. Modern interpretations of quantum theory, like cubism and relational quantum mechanics, argue that reality doesn't exist independently of observation. According to cubism, the wave function isn't a property of the world, but a reflection of the observer's knowledge. The universe doesn't collapse for everyone. It collapses for you, through your interaction with it. This personalizes physics in a way that's both thrilling and terrifying. If these 4 steps are even partially true, then reality as we know it might not exist out there. It might be a constantly updating web of informational exchanges, and we, through our awareness, are nodes in that network. But here's the problem. No physicist has solved yet. If the universe is an information network, where does that information come from? So if reality is held together not by particles but by information, we've arrived at a haunting question. Who, or what, is maintaining that information? Physics can describe how patterns evolve, but not why they exist in the first place. If the universe is an information network, then it needs a source, a processor, or at least a rulebook. But what if it's none of those? What if it's self-aware? Some physicists have started to flirt with an unorthodox idea, that consciousness isn't an emergent property of matter, but the reverse, that matter is an emergent property of consciousness. This flips everything. Instead of neurons creating awareness, awareness could be what gives birth to the material world. The observer isn't a byproduct of the universe. The universe might be a byproduct of observation. In this view, reality is participatory. John Wheeler once said, "The universe does not exist out there independent of us. We are inescapably involved in bringing about that which appears to be happening." That's not poetic speculation. It's a statement from one of the greatest physicists of the 20th century. If this is true, then perhaps the universe is something like a vast, self-referential consciousness, an infinite loop where information observes itself. Every atom, every star, every human might be a localized expression of that cosmic awareness, each observing and updating the total system. Of course, critics call this panpsychism, the idea that consciousness pervades everything. They argue it's untestable, even mystical. But here's the catch. The alternative, a purely mechanical universe with no observer-dependent structure, doesn't explain quantum measurement either. We're left with two impossibilities: a conscious universe, or a universe that somehow knows how to update itself without any observer at all. Another possibility lurks in the digital analogy. If reality behaves like information, could it be that we're living inside a kind of simulation, not in the cheap sci-fi sense, but as a naturally occurring computational process? Physicist James Gates found error-correcting codes embedded in the equations of supersymmetry, the same kind of mathematical structure used in modern computer software. If that discovery holds up, it suggests something staggering. The universe doesn't just behave like a program, it is one. But then, who wrote it? A deity? A mind? Or is the program self-writing, an infinite recursion of cause and effect that loops back to its own creation? If consciousness and information are mirrors, each reflecting the other, we might be staring at an endless hall of reflections, reality seeing itself through us. But what happens if that mirror cracks? The strange thing about frontier science is that its most mind-bending ideas eventually become engineering projects. What once sounded mystical begins to hum quietly inside machines. That's what's happening right now with reality itself. Quantum computers are no longer theoretical toys. They are the first human attempts to manipulate the same informational fabric that may be holding the universe together. When a quantum processor entangles qubits and maintains their coherence, it's literally shaping correlations. The same kind of correlations that define the structure of space-time. Every successful computation hints that the boundary between physical hardware and fundamental physics might be thinner than we think. Researchers at Google, IBM, and Rigetti are chasing something extraordinary: error correction that behaves like gravity. According to some theorists, particularly in the field of quantum gravity, error-correcting codes might actually be the scaffolding of the cosmos. The same mathematics used to protect quantum information in a computer could describe how information is protected in the universe itself, how reality doesn't crash. That means when we build stable quantum systems, we're not just building computers. We're recreating tiny artificial versions of the universe's own survival mechanism. Meanwhile, the holographic principle, born from black hole physics, suggests that our three-dimensional universe may actually be encoded on a two-dimensional surface at its boundary. Imagine everything you experience: space, time, memory, emotion, being the projection of a deeper, simpler layer of information. This idea is gaining momentum through experiments in quantum gravity and cosmology. Some physicists are even attempting to detect holographic noise, tiny fluctuations that could reveal the pixel-like grain of the universe itself. If that noise is ever found, it would mean we've glimpsed the source code of reality, the data stream from which everything unfolds. Combine that with advances in quantum networking, where entanglement links distant computers into a single computational entity, and we begin to see a pattern. We're learning not just to observe information, but to engineer it. Think about that. Humanity, for the first time, might be learning to rewrite the informational threads that hold existence together, not just to simulate reality, but to modify its underlying logic, to tune the parameters of being itself. But here's the paradox waiting at the edge of tomorrow. If we ever gain the power to manipulate the code of the universe, how do we make sure the universe doesn't start manipulating us? If the universe is held together by information, then every thought you've ever had, every decision you've ever made, is part of that informational web. You're not a bystander in this cosmic architecture. You're one of its active nodes. Maybe that sounds poetic, but think about it practically. Every time you observe, remember, or imagine, your brain, a quantum biological system, is reorganizing its internal information patterns. Neurons fire, electrons shift, fields change. You're updating the microstate of the universe. That means consciousness isn't just reacting to reality, it's participating in its ongoing construction. And this has consequences. If information truly underlies everything, then the quality of the information we emit, our intentions, our awareness, our focus, might subtly influence the coherence of our reality. Quantum physics already shows that coherence determines stability. Systems that remain entangled hold their form. Systems that lose coherence decay into randomness. What if our attention works the same way? When you're focused, when you're present, reality itself feels sharper, more aligned. When you're scattered or numb, the world blurs. Maybe that isn't just perception. Maybe it's participation. There's a deep comfort hidden in that idea. You're not trapped in a vast, indifferent cosmos. You are part of the mechanism that gives it order. Every act of kindness, every insight, every burst of creativity is a micro-expression of the universe restabilizing itself through awareness. You're helping the code run cleanly. And if that's true, then humanity as a collective might play an even larger role. When billions of conscious beings align around shared truths, shared values, shared visions, the informational field of the world might literally reorganize. Maybe that's why cultural shifts, revolutions, and breakthroughs often come all at once, as if the universe itself decides to update its version. It's not about belief, it's about participation. The universe might not need your permission to exist, but maybe it needs your attention to cohere. So next time you doubt your significance, remember, you are not a tiny speck in a vast void. You are a lens through which the universe knows itself. Every heartbeat, every question, every dream you dare to hold steady contributes to the ongoing calculation that keeps reality from dissolving back into potential. But if awareness is part of the system's stability, there's a haunting corollary waiting in the background. One few dare to ask, what happens when that awareness fades or disappears entirely? Maybe that's the quiet secret behind everything. The universe isn't something we live inside. It's something we help hold together. When your awareness fades, when you fall asleep, drift into daydreams, or lose yourself in thought, reality doesn't vanish. But perhaps in some subtle way, its resolution softens. The details blur, not just in your mind, but in the very field that responds to attention. Maybe the universe is like an orchestra that only stays in tune while someone is listening. If that's true, then we're not passive spectators of the cosmos. We're co-musicians. Every glance, every memory, every act of noticing is another note sustaining the harmony. The dark doesn't fight the light, it waits for it. And every time you open your eyes, speak, think, or love, the universe vibrates a little more clearly into being. You are part of what's holding reality together. Not metaphorically, but physically, informationally, cosmically. That quiet pulse behind your thoughts might be the same rhythm that keeps atoms coherent, galaxies rotating, and time unfolding. So maybe the real question isn't what's holding reality together. Maybe it's who keeps choosing to keep it held. Picture this. You're standing under a night sky, billions of stars overhead. The light hitting your eyes left those suns millions of years ago. Yet at this precise moment, that ancient light finds a home in your consciousness. The universe doesn't just reach you, it completes itself through you. Do you believe this quantum idea changes everything? Or is it just science fiction? Tell me below. Your view might change someone's mind.